on.
Surprise! What is up? We are back on this early Tuesday. It is noon Eastern time, and it is whatever time it is in Arizona, 9 o'clock West for most of you. This is Football Life Presents the Audible, episode 83. I am your host, Randy Hammond, alongside Matt Bushnell, switching things up on you for the rest of the season here. Hope you guys can join us for our daytime edition. Matt Bushnell, good morning, my friend. How are you?
Good morning, Randy. I am swell. It's 10 o'clock in the morning in here because Arizona is just odd. You know, we do things a little bit differently than the rest of the world. So it's still early for me, but talking football, fresh off that Monday night football game, I couldn't think of a better way to start my day, sir.
Well, we are going to talk about all the primetime games, and we're going to talk about the rest of the games. We're going to split up what we normally do on a Tuesday, and we're going to do them in two separate shows. So housekeeping, we're all right off the top. This is going to be a Week 14 recap show. Every Tuesday now will be a recap show of the previous week, and now we have a special show now on Thursdays that will be looking ahead to the following week. We will talk about the matchups. We'll talk about gambling. We'll talk about fantasy. We'll talk about all of it. So we hope you guys like how we're splitting this up a little bit. It's the same content, just split up, maybe a little bit more attention for the games ahead. So we're going to give this a shot. But, you know, Matt, before we recap all the games, we have to start the show on a somber note. And, you know, unfortunately, when these sort of things happen, it truly breaks my heart. And I do feel like the least we can do to honor their lives when someone dies is to speak about it. So on Thursday night or Friday morning, I woke up and found out Demarius Thomas, the former Denver Bronco receiver, Super Bowl champion, multiple-time Pro Bowler, had died. He was found dead in his house in Georgia. Still, specifics are kind of fuzzy there, but it seems to be a medical episode. Totally breaks my heart when I see someone who is in their early 30s go through something like this, and someone you watched. And honestly, I look up to most NFL football players. I just think to get to that level is something I respect a ton. So for me, I don't handle death very well, to be straight up with you. So I feel like this is the least we could do, Matt. So the Broncos honored him in a beautiful way for the game. I thought the Lions did the same. Any thoughts on Demarius Thomas today?
Yeah, a lot of things you hear about Demarius is regarding how good of a football player he was. He was an even better person. And when Demarius had a quarterback like Peyton Manning, he was a top 5 NFL wide receiver. He was very, very good. So much so that there is talk that, you know, maybe Hall of Fame chatter. I don't think he gets in just because the length of the career wasn't that long. He got injured and it was just never the same. Matter of fact, that's actually leads into his car accident that he had a little over a year ago, and he was suffering seizures and some medical episodes. And it got so bad that he asked his family to come live with him in Georgia. And then we all know that he passed away in the shower, tragically, due to those medical complications from that car accident. But by all accounts, really great human. We need more guys like that, you know, in this world in general. Very kind, very giving, really did a lot for his community. The things that always stand out to me is seeing those videos of Demarius Thomas giving back to the kids, spending time with them. And that's one thing I'll implore everyone, you know, throughout the holidays, as we're coming up on Christmas, and his birthday happens to fall on Christmas. I always say this to my kids and to my wife: time is the one gift that you can never give back. Once you give it, it's gone. So make sure that you tell your loved ones you love them, spend, you know, the time with them during the holiday season, and just try to be that person that you want to be.
You know, it's a cliche thing, but tomorrow is truly never promised for any of us. Our life could be gone in an instant. We don't really know when it happens or when it will happen. So you have to appreciate every single day that you're here on this earth. So it would be something I regretted if I didn't bring it up when this sort of thing happens. Just to add some perspective to how great Thomas was, and to your point, he probably won't make the Hall of Fame based on longevity alone, but he had 4 years in a row where, let me get this right, 4 years in a row with 90 receptions and 1,300 yards, and only 3 other receivers in history to do that were Marvin Harrison, Jerry Rice, and Torrey Holt. And that's a great company to be in. Thomas is second in Broncos history in reception yards, and second in touchdowns, only to Rod Smith. He is a franchise legend by all accounts when it comes to the Broncos. He was drafted in 2010 with in one of 2 first round picks for the Broncos, the other being Tebow, and they had one of the more memorable playoff moments that I'll certainly never forget. Tebow hits Thomas in overtime to beat the Steelers, and Thomas takes a slant to the house. It was so crazy at the time. Everyone obviously made it about Tebow, but Thomas truly did all the work on that play. So looking back, he really was a remarkable player. And I could think from 2012 to 2017, he really was top 5, top 10 receiver. And in 2014 and 2013, the 2 Peyton Manning record-breaking seasons on the Broncos, Thomas had 1,430 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns. And then in 2014, he had 1,619 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. He was an absolute stud. And to your point, we talk about football a lot, but what you do as a person matters so much more. And it seems like, to me, he was so revered as a great guy. So it seems like we lost a good one here, and it just makes me sad. So the least we could do, Matt, is take a second off the top of the show and pay our respects to Demarius Thomas.
Absolutely. A good man.
Gone too soon. Hug your loved ones, and like Matt said, spend some time with them this holiday season, and maybe watch some football. So the thing that truly unites us as a world is society of sports, and that's why I love it so much. That's why I'm here with you, Matt, and this is why we're here talking about this with everyone today. No easy way to transition out of that. I feel like I say that every single time, but truly there's not. So before though, Matt, let's play our little fun game. We try to get back into the mood here. 83, episode 83. Thomas wore 88. I'm sure in a couple weeks when we get to 88, we can mention Demarius Thomas again, but 83 is our episode. Famous wide receiver number. Who comes to mind for you?
Two guys. I'll go with the Bear first. Willie Gault, really known for the Super Bowl team. He was really that stretch the field type of wide receiver. Track star, could have went to the Olympics. He was that fast. And then Andre Reed, Hall of Fame wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills. I think he's in the Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure he's in the Hall of Fame. But
I believe he is, yes.
Yeah. So great players.
Definitely. I think of Wes Welker. Obviously, he was really good with the Dolphins, and the Patriots kind of just said, we can do great things with him. He went to the Patriots, obviously, and then ended up on those Broncos teams and with Peyton Manning and alongside Thomas and everything. So he was the standard for slot receivers for a while in the NFL. So I think of Wes Welker. And then I think of another fallen wide receiver, and it just turns into a really sad segment here, but Vincent Jackson, really good wide receiver for the Chargers and the Buccaneers for a long time, who also passed away earlier this year. So number 83, not to be sad, we're going to make this a happy show, unless you're Corey Decker in the comment section, which I appreciate you watching us, my friend. But the Rams on Monday Night Football making a statement over the Arizona Cardinals. They win this one 30-23 in a game I expected Arizona to come out and play much better than they did. But from the very first snap for the Cardinals, Aaron Donald just made it a point to say, we're here. I know we haven't played well totally lately, but I am the best player at my position, maybe the best player in the entire sport. We're going to be in this game. And then you had a nice game from Matt Stafford. You had an OBJ touchdown again. Cooper Kupp is an absolute stud. Yeah. This was as good of an all-around performance as I've seen from the Rams, especially against a good team, a team that I think is really good anyway. I would say even a contending team in Arizona. I think this was very important for the Rams to show the world that they are capable, because a lot of their wins have come against bad teams, and a lot of their stats, I would say, have come against bad teams. I'm very impressed by the Rams in this game, and this was without Jalen Ramsey, who gets put on a COVID list before the game, and Tyler Higbee, who also got put on the COVID list before the game. The Cardinals at home are weird. They're all 3 of their losses at home. They're undefeated or on the road. This is a huge divisional matchup. I don't know if it changes the standings that much in the NFC. I know the Packers now have home field, which is obviously big for the rest of the conference. But as far as the NFC West, I don't know how much this changes. But Matt, what did you think of this matchup here?
I mean, it was an interesting game. I think 2 things that stood out to me was how surgical Matthew Stafford was, just putting the football in perfect places, so much so that this is the best game I've ever seen Matthew Stafford play. He's had some really good games. I mean, we take a look at the stats. He was 23 of 30 for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns. The touchdown to Cooper Kupp really stood out to me, because he put that ball in one of the only places that Kupp could have absolutely caught it. OBJ looks so good this game, so smooth, in and out of his routes, very smooth. Really that gazelle type. He's not going to be as physical as I think he used to be, but still he can outrun almost anybody on the team. I just loved his route running ability. Really, really stand out. I mean, Cooper Kupp, we could talk all day about him. the two things that stood out to me looking at the Cardinals, and I know Corey said they did drop to the 3 seed. Yes, Corey, I'm sorry about that. I was hoping they'd stay in the 1 because there's a team that got into the 1 seed that I'm not very happy about, but that's okay. The first interception on Kyler Murray, my biggest issue when you have a quarterback that's about 5'10", 5'9", I knew Drew Brees was really successful at this, but the physicality, you're trying to improve on that. I don't understand why they're trying to keep Murray in the pocket in the red zone at that point. You have a lot of bodies confined in there. I would have liked to see some boot action there, roll Murray out so that way, they can't get hands on it because the ball got tipped. And I believe, was it Von Miller? No, I don't think Miller intercepted that one. I can't remember who intercepted
that. Was Leonard
Floyd. Leonard Floyd got the second one, didn't he?
Yeah, he made a great play. Oh, you're talking about the first one. Oh, it was some linebacker for the Rams who got the first one. I don't remember his name, though.
Yeah, and then the second one, Murray did roll out. And this is totally on Murray, where he rolls out, he throws the football, and Leonard Floyd, as a Bears fan, having Leonard Floyd, I can tell you one thing, he is excellent in pass coverage as a linebacker. One of the best linebackers to drop in coverage. He's 6'5", and I think his wingspan is larger than that. So Murray tried to, I don't know, because it didn't look like he got a lot of loft on it. He tried to touch throw it there. I mean, it just wasn't there. You got to know who you're playing against. You got to know how big Floyd is. Tips it up and catches it. A great athletic play by Leonard Floyd. I mean, that's what you should really come to expect out of him. He's earning every cent with the Rams. It looks like a totally different player. Very happy for him. He's a great guy. But at the end of the day, Murray can't make decisions like that. Either he needs to run and threaten the line of scrimmage more to suck up Floyd, or he does have to run it and let Floyd drop back, maybe do a little pump fake action there. But it was just really a bad decision-making play there. And as much love as we give the Cardinals, I don't understand. They get in these offensive ruts sometimes where you just wonder, like, okay, are you going to run the football more? Are you going to throw the football more? It just seemed inconsistent. And the defense, first of all, their secondary is bad. It got abused by Van Jefferson, Kupp, and OBJ. So much so, I think if OBJ was there at the beginning of the year, Randy, I think this is a 1 seed. I think they might be the best team in the NFL. My biggest issue with the Cardinals is they can't cover wide receivers like the Cooper Kupps, like the OBJs, and that's going to be a problem for them. It really seemed like they wanted to take away the run game, but I don't get it. Sonny Michel had 20 carries for 79 yards, so just under 4 yards per carry, which is not bad. But to me, the Cardinals got to pick some poison here. Budda Baker's great, but the rest of that secondary I'm not too fond of.
And that was, I think, the main concern for the Cardinals and Cardinal fans in the offseason. They really wanted to address the secondary. Obviously, they signed J.J. Watt, who hasn't played in weeks. Big impact there. But you're right. I mean, they play a team who can really air it out and kind of match their style of play. It's going to be a problem for them. Well, I'm impressed with the Rams because I think their roster is top tier. And when they get Jalen Ramsey back, it is even more elevated. I was impressed by how the rest of the secondary stepped up in his absence, because to be honest with you, Arizona is not an easy team to defend. Kyler's not an easy person to contain. And then you have obviously Hopkins, who had a brutal game, to be quite frank with you. He had 3 drops, one of them on 4th down in the red zone. They need to have that. Rondale Moore is a really electric. AJ Green had a nice game. He was 7 for 102. But I mean, right now, Zach Ertz was quiet. Christian Kirk had a deep ball, but I mean, James Conner is the primary playmaker for this team right now. He had 13 carries for 31 yards, and he had 9 catches for 94 yards. He had a wonderful one-handed catch in traffic, and that set up a red zone attempt for the Cardinals. But I'm just impressed by the Rams. I think the Rams needed this, and I what I meant earlier is when the NFC West. I feel like the Cardinals really have to fall apart here to really lose the NFC West. I think that they have this division. They're still a game up on the Rams. And even if they were to lose again and the Rams won out, they're tied, and the Cardinals have a better conference record. Yeah. This has a huge impact on the rest of the conference because Now you have to go to Lambeau Field in the postseason because the Packers schedule isn't all that difficult. It doesn't look like they're going to lose another game. Everyone really wanted the Cardinals to be the 1 seed because no one cares about Arizona. And everyone's like, oh, cool, we can go play in that weather and in that dome. Like, that would be an ideal place to go play. And the Cardinals home field isn't that great to begin with. Now things start to get interesting. We saw Brady go into Lambeau last year, beat the Packers, but can the Cardinals do it?
No.
Can the Rams do it?
No.
I don't know if that's possible. I really think we're headed to another NFC title game between the Packers and Bucs, but we'll get to that as we get to it. But this is the game that has the implications on that.
Yeah, I thought the Cardinals, this is not the best football that they play. That's for sure. Hopkins can play better. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's just indicative of, all right, you have some real issues with this team. And there are going to be some teams. We saw the Packers go in there into Arizona and beat them. We've seen the Rams go in there and beat them. So we really have to see something from Arizona to really think, okay, are they better than the Bucs? Are they better than the Rams right now? I don't believe in those teams really underneath those top three. I think the top three is very structured in the NFC. It's Packers, Bucs, Cardinals, probably in that order right now. After that, Dallas has got to get back on track. I know we'll talk about them. They had a good showing this week, but
I still like the Rams more than the Cowboys, though, I think.
Yeah, and that's fair. But then once you get past those 5 seeds, 6 and 7 are garbage. Throwaway teams. I wouldn't even concern yourselves with them.
Yeah, so this had big implications on the NFC playoff picture, but for the NFC West, just a nice win for Sean McVay and the Rams. And I will give a special shout out to Cooper Kupp. He had 13 catches for 123 yards and a touchdown. The guy has been the best receiver in the league this year. Maybe Devontae Adams has something to say about that, but those two guys, I feel like have been another level than the rest. My guy Odell, 6 for 77 and a touchdown. Happy for him. 3rd straight game for a touchdown for him. And then Ernest Jones is the guy we were talking about with the first pick. I couldn't think of his name, but we got it now. So Ernest Jones.
Okay, Ernest Jones. All
right. Well, that's Monday Night Football. Do you want to skip Sunday Night Football, Matt, or do you want to? No, I'm kidding. We're not skipping Sunday Night Football. I don't know what America's obsession is with the Bears, but they're not even done with primetime. They've got to get to one of those again next week, so that'll be fun. But Sunday Night Football, the Packers, much to my regret or whatever, they covered the 12.5. Thanks for nothing, Bears. But they win 45-30 on Sunday Night Football over Justin Fields and the Bears. The Bears had about as good of a first half as you could have on special teams. And other than the offense, really, it was, they made a lot of plays on, there's 3 aspects to the game. We got to play all 3. So the Bears really came out and I thought played pretty decent, especially at least in the second quarter. They took a 27-21 lead in halftime, which I thought I was looking pretty on that cover there, but things turned for the worst in the second half. Rodgers on his fractured toe went 29-37, 341 yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. This guy, I don't really know what else to say other than just continues to own the Bears. I'm so sorry, but it's the reality of the situation. Fields, 18-33, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. This feels like a part of the growth process for the Bears and for Fields. I just need to see him out there. He needs to go through all of this. This is part of the process. I thought the Bears ran the ball decent, 23 for 137 as a whole. But the Packers offense overall and Rodgers just too much between Adams, who had 10 for 121 and 2 touchdowns. And then the Dillon Jones combination is really good out of the backfield as well. The Packers are not a 1 seed by accident. They look the part.
Yeah, they're good. They're really good. The thing that worries me is like when they have those lapses, when you can't put together 4 good quarters, it can really come back to hurt you, especially against a team like the Bucs, the Cardinals, and probably the Rams at this point. But to me, it just comes back to, I'm going to talk about the Bears first, and I'll talk more about the Packers here. The concept of this offense, your quarterback has 3 cracked ribs. He's coming back, and the first play of the game, you go empty. Like, no added protection, nothing. You just empty it out, and you start airing the football out. David Montgomery had, I believe, 10 carries this game. 10. 1 in the entire second half. You were up going into halftime, and then you're down by 1 point coming out of the, when the Packers get the ball back and they score the touchdown there. He had 1 carry. It is totally inexcusable, Randy. Like I can't even. I'm tired of talking about this. I'm more apathetic now, but the game plan is stupid. So let me focus on Fields. That first pick six, well, the only pick six, but that first interception he threw was absolutely brutal. The route concept was bad, but as a quarterback, and I think this is something you learn off of, you have to figure out what throws you can make in the NFL versus what throws you can't. You can't throw that football on that route. If you're going to throw it, right when he breaks in his route, you have to get the ball out of your hand right then and there. Once he turns, that ball has to be there to avoid that DB breaking on it so much. But, it was a bad read, bad throw, timing was off. So, you know what? Learn from it. Most of the game, it's just no protection, Randy. All game, he was getting sacked, he was getting hit. It was just the entire stinking game. Just getting pressure up the middle. Jason Peters got hurt. They brought in Tevin Jenkins, their 2nd round pick. He's got some traits that you like, but this was his first game back after back surgery, his first action in the entire NFL. Didn't have preseason, none of that. And you put him at left tackle against Preston Smith and give him no help. You're like, all right, go one-on-one. And I mean, this is just the Bears in a nutshell. I get so sick of talking about it because it gets so aggravating. But woosah. Now to the Packers, because I'm just done with the Bears. I don't even care. Aaron Rodgers is so accurate. I could take 6 throws from this game, and I can tell you no other quarterback in this league can make those throws.
Yeah.
They just can't do it. The touchdown pass to Aaron Jones, my God, like it blew my mind. Just out of the reach of your defensive tackle, dropping back in zone coverage, because it was a zone blitz scheme there, and him just be able to put that ball. And then the Devontae Adams touchdown, before halftime. Just quarterbacks can't do this. They shouldn't be able to do this so often. Aaron Rodgers has the best touch in the entire NFL. It's not close. He can do things. He can put the ball in places no one else can. Devontae Adams is the most skilled wide receiver in the NFL, but bar none. And whoever wants to say Justin Jefferson or Cooper Kupp, those are great guys. I'm not going to deny them their place in here. But Devontae Adams has the size, the speed, the route running, that move in the end zone that he put on Jalen Johnson. And I'm going to touch on this in a minute. But that move, act like he's going fade, and then cut it back in on that slant was unreal. No DB in the NFL can cover that. Why he's single covered in the red zone.
That's what you should be bad about.
Yes. Like, why are you're hanging I get it. He's great. Jalen Johnson's a really good corner in the NFL. It was a nice draft pick by Ryan Pace, but putting him one-on-one with the best receiver in the NFL in the red zone, stupid. Just absolutely stupid. And then Matt Nagy comes out and is like, well, I don't know what second half adjustments they made. Let's talk about Robert Quinn. Robert Quinn entered the game with 12 sacks, left with 14. He got 2 in the first half. Then, by God, Matt LaFleur had a great idea. Let's chip them every play. We don't think anybody else can beat us on your defense, so we're going to chip Robert Quinn every play. Took him out of the game. That was it. No more Robert Quinn because they got a smart head coach. And then, offensively, let's put Devontae Adams in the slot. Jalen Johnson does not know how to play slot. They abused the Bears slot corner, just abused him. And Matt Nagy comes out and says, I don't know what adjustments they made. Well, that's why your ass is getting fired, and that's why the Packers are going to go to the NFC Championship game. I'm just telling you guys right now, I don't know who can go into Lambeau in that first game and beat them, because I don't think it's going to be easy. I actually think it's going to be a rematch, like you said, Bucs-Packers.
Yeah, I mean, they just look so good. Rodgers on a fractured toe. I can't say it enough. I mean, still looks like he hasn't lost anything. I mean, he's the combination of every quarterback that anyone has ever said is great. I mean, if he could put it all together in the playoffs, make another championship run, I think people would start considering him in that top 3 situation. I mean, he has the anticipation, he has the placement, he has the arm strength, has the touch, he has everything. Like the way he flicks his wrist, like just watch him throw the ball. No one else can throw like him, and it's beautiful. It is truly an art to watch. I know that he's kind of an asshole as a person. I know that he's not that likable. I love watching the guy play football straight up. And they have weapons. They have a good offensive line, and I mean this should be the year that Green Bay represents the NFC in the title game. As for the Bears, I just need to keep seeing Fields out there, and I need him to. I don't know if Nagy's capable of this, but utilize your weapons. Give Montgomery more than 10 carries because he had 42 yards. Why not give him a little bit more love? Where I know Robinson came back from injury, but he had 6 targets. He had 2 for 14.
Man, there's players. Robinson gave up in this game. He got out.
Well, Cole Kmet had a brutal fumble too, right?
I mean, I'm done with him.
Yeah, well, you look at this box score and the whole story. If you didn't watch the game, just look at the box score. This game was changed and was won in the third quarter. Every time there's a bad team or a poorly coached team, look at how they do after halftime. And the Packers outscored the Bears 17-0 in the third quarter, and the game was over at that point. And then the Bears were down, 38 to 27, and it was 4th down, and they kicked a field goal. Like, I guess it's 1-score game at that point, but I don't think that's coaching to win necessarily. There's still enough time. Rodgers came back and scored again. So
well, and the biggest indictment is it's 38 to 27 as well, and it's 4th and inches, and the Bears elect to punt. I mean, that's just, you're 4-8. Like, what are you doing here? I'm done with them.
Yep, and Packers are 10-3, 6-0 at home, and it looks like they have home field advantage in the NFC. The Bears 4-9, helping my Giants get a good first round pick.
It's going to be good, all right.
Greatly appreciative of that effort. If you want to stick Andy Dalton out there too, for the hell of it, I'm cool with that too. But the Giants and Bears play each other in a month, so that game is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it could be for the number 1 pick.
Lions aren't going to win enough games for that to happen.
Let me check the schedule. Do they play the Bears again?
They got the Texans still and the Jags. There's too much clutter at the top 3. So, all right. Now Thursday Night Football feels like forever ago, but it happened. The Minnesota Vikings hang on despite having a 23-0 lead at halftime. They hold on to win 36-28 on Thursday Night Football over the Steelers. A mediocre game from Kirk Cousins on primetime. Who could have thought that was possible? He went 14-31, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. This, much to my overall disappointment and anger, was the Dalvin Cook game. He wasn't supposed to play early in the day Thursday. They announced that he was going to play. Me, as someone who has Madison in a couple leagues, was very upset about that. Also was playing against Cook in a couple of other leagues. Really didn't like that either. He had 27 for 205 and 2 touchdowns, added a catch for 17 yards in there as well. Cook was out of his mind in this game. And then the Jefferson experience, still really, really good. 7 for 79 and a touchdown. KJ Osborne filled in for Adam Thielen nicely for 3 for 83 and a long 62-yard touchdown in the second half to sort of seal this one. But to me, Matt, this game came down to one boneheaded decision by a wide receiver on the Steelers. Now, this is why they lost. They can't go down 23-0 and expect to win the game, but they were driving down 8. They have a chance to score and maybe go for the 2-point conversion. Chase Claypool, who was a big reason the Steelers were even in this situation. He played very well in the second half. He had 8 catches for 93 yards. He catches a first down. There are no timeouts left. There's roughly 15 seconds on the clock. He gets up and he points first down. The ball gets knocked out of his hands. And then all of a sudden there is just 3 seconds left for the Steelers. Very frustrating play for Claypool if you're a Steelers fan, but ultimately not why you lost. But you react to this game, Matt. Vikings still in the NFC playoff picture, and the Steelers, while in 4th place in the AFC North picture, also have a chance to win. So what do you make of this? It just feels like a lot of mediocrity all around.
Yeah, I think these two teams are evenly matched. If they play 100 times, they might split 50-50 because I don't think either of these two teams are exceptionally talented. The one thing I will say is I think the reason why it leaned the Vikings' advantage was because TJ Watt got hurt. I mean, if TJ Watt stays in the game and starts getting close like that, you expect them to make a play. Honestly, the biggest thing to take away from me is Dalvin Cook's that dude. Every team needs that dude, and Dalvin Cook is that guy for the Vikings. Kirk Cousins threw two brutal, just absolutely brutal interceptions, and this is what we've come to expect from him. He had two touchdowns, which is nice. I mean, that one touchdown to Osborne was, a very pretty throw, and I give Cousins a lot of credit for it in a very key moment because you just felt the momentum was going all the way to Steelers, and then that touchdown pass to Osborne really helped bring that momentum back towards the middle part of it. But I think it comes with Claypool is I think Tomlin's a really, really great head coach. If he ever got fired, he'd have a job tomorrow
Yep.
or within the hour after he got fired.
Yep.
To me, Ben Roethlisberger's comment is so indicative of it and why I think Ben Roethlisberger is so poisonous in a locker room because no quarterback that I look as leader, I don't think Aaron Rodgers would have tolerated it. I don't think I can tell you right now, Tom Brady would have ripped the guy's head off.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes would have given him a near full.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these great quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford, but the Rams are just so well coached and they understand offensive football. Like OBJ having a really heads up play by staying in bounds and getting down to keep the clock running. Just indicative of that. And Peyton Manning would just absolutely had Claypool cut the first time it happened because Manning just wasn't going to deal with that. It just speaks to the quarterback. You're the leader. You're supposed to be that guy. It's what when you look at these young quarterbacks, you want to see if they can do that, how they command the huddle, how they command their team. Like this is not what we do right now. And to me, when Ben Roethlisberger says that's a coach thing, go talk to him about it. Yeah, it's just who Ben Roethlisberger's always been. That's been the type of guy he is. You have to correct them in that instance. And that's why the Steelers are where they're at, because we saw Peyton Manning with a noodle arm, not being able to really push the ball downfield at all, lead the Broncos to a Super Bowl, and why Ben Roethlisberger just can't seem to get a win when they need it the most.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. Ben Roethlisberger, I think, has been fortunate to have Mike Tomlin as his head coach for his entire career. For most of his career.
Bill Cowher to start.
Well, Cowher also lucky to have him too. Yep. I would say. Ben in this game actually played decent on a lot of this in the second half of the fourth quarter, and they scored 21 points, but 28 of 40, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. This feels like Ben's swan song. I know it came out that he doesn't think he's going to come back as the Steelers quarterback. Why would the Steelers want him back at quarterback? He can't move. He's slow. His arm isn't the same. I think he's putting together a decent final season, and that's good for him, but I think he's done. I think you could watch it. I think you could tell with Phillip Rivers last year that he was done, and I think you could tell the year before that Eli was done. All three of these 2004 quarterbacks, they had wonderful careers. They're all Hall of Famers in my book. You could tell when they're done, and Ben just feels done to me. And that quote is not going to help his case here. No. I feel like they would be happily taking on a guy like Marcus Mariota or, Gardner Minshew and be a better team next year.
Mitch Trubisky.
I could see that too. But Ben, I feel like, is holding them back quite a bit at this point. But, the Vikings still alive. The Steelers also somehow still alive. And TJ Watt, to your point, they need him. They would have very little wins or success this season without him. He makes a big difference. And he also, what else made a big difference? They let go of Melvin Ingram like 5 weeks ago and gave him up to the Chiefs for, I believe, a 5th round pick, and it has transformed the Chiefs defense. Since Ingram got there, the Chiefs are 5-0 and allow, I believe, less than 20 points a game. So maybe Ingram was more valuable to the Steelers than they thought at the time.
Yeah, well, do you want to talk about that one?
Well, we can start with that one, I suppose. That wasn't the first one on the docket, but sure. Let's jump to the third game on the docket here. We're going to move on to Sunday's slate, and it is the Kansas City Chiefs crushing the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm going to throw $1 in there because I knew it wasn't Oakland. I said it anyway. So the Vegas Raiders, they didn't even deserve to be from Vegas for how much they shot themselves in the foot in this game. Before the game even started, the Raiders gathered for a little meeting on the Chiefs logo at midfield, and that was the only time they reached midfield until the fourth quarter in garbage time. Boy, oh boy. The first play of the game, just Josh Jacobs fumbles the ball, gets returned back for a touchdown, and that was basically all she wrote for the Raiders. The Chiefs win this one 48-9. Domination. My God, the Chiefs are back. Pat Mahomes, 20-24, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs also added 130 yards rushing, but it was all the defense, and the Raiders now feel like finally they are toast, Matt.
Yep, I'm putting the grave or the dirt on their grave right now. I'm burying them. They are done. Of all the stupid things you do, there's a list of things you don't do. You don't spit in the wind and you don't tug on Superman's cape. And what you did at Arrowhead, Las Vegas, was completely Bush League, stupid. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's no reason. You got destroyed by them earlier in the year, and you thought going onto their logo in midfield was going to somehow give you some extra inspiration. Look, I love what the Chiefs are doing. And if you're watching football, anybody that wants to doubt the Kansas City Chiefs, and this is why they're going to go to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, right now, they have rebranded themselves right now. They are physical at the point of attack. They are punching people in the mouth. They are going after it defensively. They are making a statement. Winning the line of scrimmage is so important. And like you said, kicking Chris Jones back into defensive tackle territory and let Melvin Ingram play defensive end has totally transformed this defense, has made them much more formidable. It's hard to run on this team right now. Offensively, Kelsey's getting double teamed and Tyreek Hill's getting double teamed. But now you're starting to see that push. The running backs are getting involved in the passing game now. Mahomes is looking at different targets. He's not trying to make these superhuman throws to Kelsey and Hill. Josh Gordon got a touchdown yesterday. Chiefs, watch out for them. If they continue this physical brand of football, and I believe they're going to, I think this team is starting to roll for all the right reasons. I like Kansas City a lot going forward. Oh, yeah, Las Vegas, they're done.
They are absolutely done. As we said, 48-9 is just, you're getting clowned at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't know who came up with this great idea to just taunt them at halftime, before the game at midfield. Like, why did anyone think that was a good idea? But you're right. They did transform themselves. And it's not something that you and I were even optimistic that could happen early on in the season. They were a soft team. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't figure out the cover 2 that teams were playing against them. But now they're trying to run the ball more. 30 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire only had 37 yards rushing, but he had 2 touchdowns. Derek Gore had 9 for 66. I don't know how well he is going to be, but it's a good start, I think, for them. And then Darrell Williams makes an impact in the passing game. He had 3 for 31 and a nice touchdown grab too, actually. But this team's gonna be as good as the defense takes them, and I think they've really stepped up here. And if Pat Mahomes can get into a groove, which seems like he started to, the Chiefs are as dangerous as any in the AFC, and I think I probably trust them more than any other team in the AFC at this point.
Yeah, Henry wants to know if we think Derek Carr is going to get traded. I don't think so. I think he remains in Las Vegas.
I mean, it would be I don't know why Vegas would do it. I think he is their franchise, but I do think other teams will be interested.
Yeah.
And I think they should be, because I think he's really good.
Well, keep in mind, it was Gruden fueling those trade talks this entire time. So maybe they know what they got in Carr and they just shut it down at that point when Gruden's finally gone.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what Henry wants from us. Like, the Chiefs have won 5 in a row and now look like the cream of the crop in the AFC. Why wouldn't we talk about them being potential Super Bowl favorites? I'm confused. This is kind of like what conversations I have with my family about me working in news. They go, only thing on the news is COVID. Okay, well, there's literally a pandemic happening. Do you not want me to cover it, Henry? Is that what you want? Me to lie to you? Anyway, we have more games to talk about. Eventually, we'll get to his stupid team and how they cost me money on Sunday. But first, we're going to talk about an AFC North battle between the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. And this game I did cover on. Thank you very much. But boy, oh boy, the Browns just leave you a ton to be desired, especially at the quarterback position. They win 24-22 over the Ravens. But the storyline of this game, they led this game 24-6 at one point. I think it was halftime left, 24-6. And this is Lamar Jackson left the game in the first half, and he did not come back. And I think the reports came back good, Matt. I think it's not a high ankle sprain, but a regular ankle sprain. Still not ideal for Lamar. And so it could be Tyler Huntley here down the stretch, and their schedule is tough. So things are starting to look pretty bad for the Ravens.
A couple of things with the Ravens. They can't block up cover zero blitz with Lamar Jackson. It's a problem now. It's officially a problem. Lamar Jackson doesn't know what to do with the cover zero blitz. The Ravens don't know how to run an offense against the cover zero blitz. They have too many wide receivers grouped together, not open. So Lamar Jackson either makes a really stupid throw or he gets sacked because he can't get out of it. So basically, the moral of the story is if you're any team, just zero blitz the Ravens. And if you want to know what cover zero is, it's basically sending 8 guys and only dropping 3 into coverage. So literally cover zero. And then and you're sending the guys up the middle. You could have 4 guys in blitz 7, but it just depends on your defensive setup there. But the Browns, no, I'm not buying them. Baker Mayfield, bleh. Browns defense is the real deal. You love their ground attack with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I like both those guys. Austin Hooper had a nice touchdown catch. Jarvis Landry had a touchdown catch. First one for a Browns wide receiver in forever, it feels like. So just not a whole lot here, Randy. I didn't come away impressed or have an epiphany about the Browns. I still think they stink. I think this is more about the Ravens not to be able to adjust. Ravens are in deep shit. I don't know how they get out of this. Really, the AFC North might be the Bengals to lose. But yeah, we'll talk about them later too.
I mean, I don't know how anyone could feel good about the Browns. They scored 24 points in the first half, one of them being the Myles Garrett trifecta, got the strip sack, got the recovery, and returned it for a touchdown all by himself. And in the second half, you let Tyler Huntley score 16 unanswered points, and they recovered an onside kick with 1:15 left, and you thought there was a real chance as long as they could get within 60, Justin Tucker was going to win this game. Now, luckily for the Browns, they got a stop, and that didn't happen. But, man, the Browns just do not do a good job of putting away these games and making you feel good about themselves. And what's crazy watching them, they clearly need something that they had that they no longer have. And you know where I'm going with this. They need OBJ. They need an outside receiver who can get separation, who can make plays, who could blow the roof off of defense, who could take a slant to the house, which I know Odell hasn't done that in years, but my God, they do not have any explosiveness on their offense. Obviously, they run the ball well, but the injuries to the offensive line has limited that as well. Baker Mayfield's limitations are so glaring. They are hard to watch. He had 1 interception on the stat sheet, but could have thrown 4. Yeah. I mean, the Ravens' brutal secondary, which is banged up in their own sense, they dropped 3 picks, and one of them hit him right in the numbers. Baker, I thought, was horrible in this game, despite being 22 of 32, 190 for 2 touchdowns. I guess this is a conversation I heard on another show, Matt, but I need to know what your thoughts are. Baker Mayfield injured for the rest of the season or Case Keenum healthy? What would you rather do, and what do you think puts you in the best situation to win? You're 7-6 now, and you have a real shot to win the division and make the playoffs. If you were the Browns, what would you do?
I would start Case Keenum healthy or injured. Baker Mayfield doesn't matter to me. I don't think Baker gives you the best chance to win Sundays. On any given Sunday. I think Case Keenum can play the quarterback position at a much more efficient level than what Baker Mayfield's doing. I don't want to say Baker Mayfield's a bad quarterback. I think Baker feels too much about himself. He's too much kind of with the quarterback position. You got to strip down your ego, and a lot of it comes down to, like what we say, check downs and then being able to hit the open man. And I think Case Keenum can do that better than Baker Mayfield at this point.
I agree. I think there's just too many mistakes made by Baker on a regular basis, and it hurts the Browns a ton. Before we move on, I just want to give a couple shout outs. Mark Andrews, I don't feel like we talk enough about on the show. We have a big 3 at the tight end position in the NFL in Travis Kelce, George Kittle, and Darren Waller. I think Andrews is in that 4 spot. He obviously is the target for the Ravens on offense. He is an absolute stud. He had 11 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown in this game. He has great hands, good route runner, just overall really steady. I don't think he's the best blocker ever, but really good offensive weapon for the Ravens. And then finally, the first round pick for Rashad Bateman, my guy in Minnesota, finally had a good game here. It's 7 for 103. I think that the Ravens are going to need him to step up because their receivers have always been lackluster and Hollywood is pretty inconsistent. So I'm interested to see what happens in this AFC North because it's just a lot of teams clumped in together. We talked about the Bengals a little bit. A lot of teams, and now with Lamar out, I feel like the division is up for the taking.
Yep, agreed.
All right, moving on now. Let's go. We don't have to spend more than a couple minutes on this game. If that, the Titans take care of business in a divisional game against the Jags. They shut out the Jags 20-0. And honestly, the highlights of this game are sad. It is a Ryan Tannehill rushing touchdown, and then not a ton else. I mean, Trevor Lawrence threw 4 interceptions in this game. Did not play well. The Jags had 8 rushing yards on 8 attempts. This was horrible all around by Jacksonville. And when you watch the coach handshake at the end of the game, I don't think I've ever seen a coach with more of a limp handshake in my life than what Urban Meyer had. He just nonchalantly just said, "Yep, thanks." I know he's got 4 years left and $40 million or whatever on the contract. I don't know how the Jags can justify bringing this man back. He is just an albatross to the sport.
Yeah, it's really bad. I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence. I know people are going to start writing their narratives that Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson's better, Justin Fields is better, Mac Jones is better, Trey Lance, all this stuff. I mean, you just need to step back. And, we talked about Sam Darnold enough with Adam Gase, and we know how much of an anchor that was on Sam Darnold. But really, Sam Darnold didn't help himself out either. Adam Gase knew how to run concepts of an NFL offense. When I sit down and I look at the tape and I'm going through what they're doing, it makes no sense. There's no rhyme or reason to this offense. They're trying to do things, and there's not much Trevor Lawrence can do. I think if you haven't played football, it's one of the biggest mind jobs a coach does to their players. And it starts off from an early age, like, I got to listen to coach. So you really never question the coach's authority until you just get sick of it and get tired of it. And it's starting to feel like that's building up now with the Marvin Jones incident. To me, really, I don't have a lot to add to this game. It was pathetic. It was sad. I'm done with Urban Meyer. He should have been fired yesterday to help out Trevor Lawrence. They're going to screw over Trevor Lawrence. And it just depends how much damage is going to be done beforehand. I still think he's going to be fine. Don't question his talent. That's just stupid. But, here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of disappointed in what I've seen from Lawrence. I thought he could overcome some of this ineptitude on the coaching front, but man, this is like all-time bad stuff we're seeing from Urban Meyer here. There were reports before the game he was calling his coaches losers, and he had confirmed that report himself to Jay Glazer. Like, why is that something you're bragging about or talking about? I don't understand it. He is just the worst. I don't know if I can remember a coach being worse than Urban Meyer. And that says a lot. We've seen a lot of bad coaches, and the Jags are an absolute mess. So I don't know what they do. I know the Cons have a lot of money. I think they can afford to eat the money from Urban and move on. I don't know if they have the pride to do such a thing, but man, they should. On the Titans front, they're 9-4 now, seem to control their own destiny in the division. I don't know how serious I take them in the playoffs. I haven't seen that yet. I mean, 9-4, they still have the tied for the best record in the AFC with the Patriots and the Chiefs. And they have wins over the Chiefs. They have a win over the Chiefs, but not a win over the Patriots. Patriots beat them. But there was a report that Derrick Henry is going to be back for the playoffs. Julio Jones came back for this game. I guess if they got healthy, they would be interesting. But I just don't trust the Titans to make a deep run. Do you think they can make a little noise in the playoffs, Matt?
If Derrick Henry comes back, I think so. A lot of it depends on where the games are played. There's still a lot of volatility left in the AFC. Some big games are left to be played, so I think that depends. It just depends on who they get matchup wise. But Derrick Henry, if he's back and he's at 100%, that's going to be a load for a lot of teams to take down. I actually would like to see the Titans against the Patriots. I think that would be a really entertaining game with Derrick Henry back. Can they? Sure. Will they? It just depends on Derrick Henry's health. He's the most important player on that team.
Yep, definitely hard to judge them with Deontay Foreman running the rock for them. All right, to the Meadowlands now at MetLife Stadium, where the New York Jets scored 9 points in a loss to the Saints. Taysom Hill put up a 30-burger in the Meadowlands, and he went 15-21, 175 yards in the air, but on the ground, he had an 11 for 73 and 2 touchdowns. This game was boring. That didn't take much away from it other than the Saints are just a better run organization, and Zach Wilson didn't have any of his weapons, so there was no Michael Carter. There was no Elijah Moore. To me, this Jets really. I mean, I don't have a ton of talent around him anyway, but without those two guys, it's hard to truly evaluate. So Wilson, 19 of 42 for 200 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. I don't necessarily know if I necessarily see it from the guy, but as I said, hard to evaluate with the talent level around him. It was good to have Alvin Kamara back, 27 carries for 120 yards and a touchdown, and then he added 4 catches for 25 yards as well. I don't get the whole Taysom Hill experience. I know it worked for this game against the Jets, but I don't know why the Saints are so infatuated with him.
I don't want to add much to this game because I tuned in for parts of it. I tried watching other parts of it. It's a hard watch, but this game was really hard to sit down and watch. Zach Wilson from a quarterback position does a lot of things I hate. To me, I don't think he has a feel of the game, Randy. It always feels like everything's moving at a gazillion miles per hour. He throws to guys like he's trying to break their fingers. It just doesn't make any sense. Like the simplest plays, he wants to show that, he can throw 100 miles per hour. If you want to go do that, go play professional baseball. This isn't the sport for that. You have to know when to put touch on it, when to, put shape on a pass. And I don't think he has that skill set. I don't think he's a smart quarterback. I think he lacks football intelligence. So I'll be interested to see where he ends up.
Yep. The Jets, I feel like, need a little bit more attention for him. Like, I know that he's out there playing, but I don't see the development. And I know maybe it takes more time than just game by game, but they're still making the same mistakes that are ones I feel like are easily correctable. So
yeah,
I'd be frustrated if I was a Jets fan. All right, to Landover, Maryland, where the team that represents the Washington District of Columbia plays. They brought in the Cowboys, who also brought their own benches to the game, which is extra as fuck. Anyway, the Cowboys went out to a huge lead in this game. They were up, 27-8 at one point, even bigger than that probably, but they hang on to win 27-20. This game was over until it wasn't. Dak Prescott threw a pick 6 in the fourth quarter that kept Washington right in this game. Taylor Heineke left this game with an injury. And Kyle Allen, I think it was Kyle Allen, came in the game trying to make the comeback, but it was not enough. To me, I mean, there's two narratives for the Cowboys coming out of this game. One being Dak Prescott does not look like himself. I think he kind of looks, there's something clearly wrong. Maybe he's more hurt than we're being led on to. He went 22 of 39, 211 yards, touchdown, and 2 picks, including that pick 6 that I mentioned. The other one being the Cowboys defense is for real, and it's partially because Randy Gregory made a return, and he made an unbelievable interception play in this game. But the main reason is that they have the defensive rookie of the year, who is also a defensive player of the year candidate in Micah Parsons. His stats are insane. He only had 3 tackles in this game, but he had 2 sacks, and I think he had 2 forced fumbles. I mean, Micah Parsons is a game wrecker. He is unblockable, and he totally blew up whatever plan Washington had, and he's the one ultimately who knocked Heineke out of the game. So Cowboys offense, leaves a lot to be desired, but the defense is playing at a level that they haven't touched so far this year.
Yeah, it's a story of the Cowboys defense. They made Heineke, who's been okay against other teams, look all right. I just never felt Washington had a chance in this game. They did mount a little bit of a comeback, but still not enough. This Dallas defense is elite, one of the top 5 units in the NFL defensively. Parsons, an absolute stud. I have him as my defensive player of the year right now, Randy. It is truly incredible that this kid can play inside linebacker, outside linebacker, and edge rusher. And he does all 3 of those at an elite level. So really the sky's the limit. Randy Gregory, all the weed concerns, all the issues he had in his past, and Jerry Jones still believing in him. You got to give Jerry credit because this was Jerry's guy, and he persevered, and now he made, he's turning into a really, really good football player. Dak, there's injuries there. There's got to be something there because I'm not sure if it's just, they're tired or what's going on, but Dak does not look right. But still good enough to get the win here. Washington's done. Stick a fork in them. Dallas is winning the East.
I think Washington is still technically a playoff seed right now, but I don't feel great about them going forward.
No.
I don't like how they looked in this game. I just want to put this into perspective, and I shared this in the group chat with you because it involves your team, but through 13 games, Micah Parsons is already having better numbers than Khalil Mack had in his Defensive Player of the Year season. He has more sacks, tackles for losses, and QB hits than Mac had in an entire season. So, I mean, this just shows how dominant he's been. He has 12 sacks, 75 tackles, 17 tackles for losses, and 27 quarterback hits in just 13 games. That is insane what he's done so far this year.
Micah Parsons needs to come talk to me when he wins a defensive player of the year at defensive end and then outside linebacker. Then we can have
I'm not saying it to disparage Khalil Mack. I'm just using it as perspective for how great Mack is.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I love Micah Parsons. Like I said, kind of shot up my defensive player of the year, and I love him, and I think he's going to get it. He should. He's a game wrecker. He's the best defensive player in football.
I still think TJ Watt probably is, and then Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett deserve their just flowers too. But he's up there. He has skyrocketed up to that level for sure. And honestly, they have another one in Diggs. I think that outside of those four, Diggs is the next guy you might consider, and he's on the same defense. So the Cowboys defense has a ton of talent all around. I hate it, but it's true. The Cowboys now 9-4, basically a lock to win the NFC East. They all but sealed the division with this win, unless they completely fall apart and the Eagles somehow go on a tear. I don't necessarily seeing that happen. So I get to watch the Cowboys this Sunday when I go to the game at MetLife Stadium when they play Mike Glennon and the Giants. Fun stuff. Really looking forward to that. Not really. Down to the NFC South, where the Carolina Panthers and the Falcons played. And the Falcons are now also very much alive in the NFC playoff picture, and they have the lowest DVA of any team in the league. That's pretty hard to believe on offense and defense. They won 29-21 over the Panthers, and I know the Falcons won, and it's all cool, and we could talk about their ability to rush with Davis and Patterson, who look like they're playing well. Matt Ryan just does just enough to get the job done. I'm not really that impressed with Matt Ryan, but what the hell are the Panthers doing? They fired their offensive coordinator, and now Matt Rule just decides to throw Cam Newton and PJ Walker out there in every other possession as if you're a college team who doesn't have a quarterback. You just have two that you say are competing, but neither are really good enough to take over the main role. Cam Newton was 15-23 for 178 yards and a pick. PJ Walker was 6 of 12 for 75 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. I don't understand this. They both, Cam played a little bit more than PJ, but they essentially split the time. The Panthers feel like a big time mess, and I don't know what's going to change.
We talk about Urban Meyer, we talk about Matt Rule and this whole college coaching. And you know what? Jim Caldwell's sitting out there. He got unjustly fired from Detroit. And I go back to Carolina. Like, if I'm the Bears right now, and I know, we kind of already got off them, but any team looking for a head coach this offseason, Jim Caldwell is so perfect, especially for a young quarterback. If the Jets move off of Robert Saleh, which I don't think is out of the question, it's unlikely that it might. Or we could look at a guy like, I don't know who's going to play quarterback for the Giants, to be honest with you, to move off Joe Judge. But here's the thing, like Matt Rule has done no favors to any of his quarterbacks. I think Joe Brady unfairly got blamed for this mess in Carolina when it's his. When you start feeling heat, you fire the person that will take the most heat off of you. Remember, Matt Rule came in as this offensive guru from college, was supposed to revolutionize the Panthers offense, and he's shit a brick. Let's just face it what it is. Just, it's a coaching issue with Carolina. That's all there is to it. Falcons, we see it. Arthur Smith has made all the difference with that football team. He's rebranded them. They're physical. They're not a talented football team. This is not a very good football team, but what he's done has been an outstanding coaching job. And this is why I loved Arthur Smith. To me, two teams heading in opposite directions. Atlanta's going to get more talented. They're going to start rebuilding that roster. Carolina, they got to figure out their next head coach. They don't have them. And Matt Rule stinks. I think Carolina's down in the druthers. They thought they could fix Sam Darnold. That ain't happening. And now you have this stupid quarterback thing you got going with PJ Walker and Cam Newton. It's a mess. Carolina's toxic.
Well, it goes back to Rule. Okay, obviously the most important thing is quarterback. But Rule is the decision maker with this because they gave him a ton of control in that aspect. So his first move was Cam Newton's gone. They trade or they sign Teddy Bridgewater. It's a mega deal, like a huge deal, way too much money for Teddy Bridgewater. After a year, you go, you know what? I don't really want to try the Teddy Bridgewater thing anymore. Let's trade a second round pick, I believe it was it a third round pick for Sam Darnold, who was a big mess with the Jets. Like, I know a lot of people still believe that he could turn it around. I certainly wasn't one of them. That looked good after 3 weeks, kind of, and that completely fell apart. Now you bring Cam Newton back, and this is what you have going on right now. Like, you're in quarterback hell, and the rest of your roster is not good enough to make up for it. Your running back that you paid a ton of money for hasn't been able to stay on the field at all the last 2 years. You're just, the defense is banged up. Your first round pick's out for the year. The Panthers just have this just mess all around them here, and they are going to be involved in any of these potential quarterback availabilities. I know Henry likes to joke that Jimmy G is going to be out on the Giants next year. The Giants don't have enough money for Jimmy G. I could see Jimmy G on the Panthers. I could see the Panthers making a call on Derek Carr. I could see the Panthers being in on Aaron Rodgers. Probably not going to happen, but I could see it. I could see them making calls about Russell Wilson. And I could see them, and this has already been rumored, but Deshaun Watson was also a name being thrown out there for a possibility for Carolina. So I don't know if any team is going to make a move for Deshaun Watson, but if there was any, I think Carolina and maybe Miami might even just stick it out with Tua. I could see Carolina being desperate enough to do it. To your point about Arthur Smith, though, how many teams was Cordero Patterson on for the last 9 years until he could actually become a real playmaker in this league? I mean, was it 6?
Yep. No, he's been
around. A real player now.
Well, he was an all-pro kick returner for a long time. I mean, he's always been good. I believe he started off with the Vikings, and he was great at returning kicks for the Vikings. So this is not all that surprising to me, that as far as his athletic ability. But what is surprising is, like, okay, now we know how to use them. So that's
right. He was an all-pro and a Pro Bowler in special teams for many different years. Most recently the Patriots, but none of those teams he was on ever utilized him correctly on offense. And now you're seeing someone actually utilize his talent. So I agree. Two teams going in different directions. I don't know if they fire Rule. They might chalk it up to having quarterback issues. But man, oh man, he seems like he's just as big of a problem as those quarterbacks.
Yep, agreed.
Anyway, I mean, the Falcons might make the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah, they might. They might sneak up on Washington. I think
they could get Ridley back. They might actually make some noise. Who knows? I know their first round pick Pitts have made a huge play down the stretch in that game.
Yep.
All right, now down to Houston, where they have so many problems, and the Seahawks are one of them. Seattle wins this one 33-13. I think the final score was, yes, 33-13. And this is probably the best Seahawks game all year. Obviously, they beat the Niners a couple weeks ago, but that was sort of nervous and energy around that one. Didn't think you were going to win that, but hey, it's the Texans. They also just like to give people games. So Russell Wilson looked okay in this game. I don't think it was great, but 17-28, 260 and 2 touchdowns. But this was the most random game of all because Rashad Penny, a former first round pick, had himself a day, 16 carries, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. If you told me Rashad Penny was going to go off, I would have said, what team does he play for? I did not think he was still on the Seahawks, but good for him. Tyler Lockett, 5 for 142 and a touch. And the Seahawks rolled. The Texans are now in, let's see what we have in Davis Mills mode. He is 33 of 49 and a touchdown and he actually had 331 yards passing. I have a bad feeling the Texans are going to talk themselves into Davis Mills so they don't have to draft one of these quarterbacks. And I think it's going to be a mistake. But I don't know if I love any of these quarterbacks. Maybe it's not that big of a mistake. The Texans stink, and the Seahawks do too. But hey, nice win for Seattle.
Yeah. Texans are just a mess overall. Seattle's got to figure out some things with their roster, especially Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. But Houston, are they going to keep Watson? I think they're going to move off him. I think they already made that decision. Will it be to the Panthers? I don't know. Dark horse here, and I don't know how likely it is because we talk about the Giants a lot. But the Giants have the trade ammunition with the high picks.
They wouldn't. They didn't draft Micah Parsons because he had rumors of, like sexual harassment at Penn State. So they won't.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day is that he's getting traded. I don't know where he's going to get traded to. Houston's a mess. Seattle's got to figure out this thing with Pete and Russell because it's obviously very broken at this point. to me, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But this game was epitome of two franchises. Both are kind of like blowing in the wind. Neither of them are really good, and they have a lot of stuff to figure out. I wouldn't read too much into this game. Russ had a nice game, but yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on this game. I just think they're just two bad football teams playing to a game where, Seattle wins in a blowout fashion.
Yeah, nothing really else to add. This game means nothing as far as the future of the NFL. It's just nice, I guess, if you're a Seahawks fan, it makes you feel a little bit better about your week. So good for you. And ultimately, they will have to make that decision, whether it's Russ or Pete. I would personally just fire Pete and keep Russ. But hey, teams do dumb stuff all the time. So I think Russ is much more of a realistic candidate for the Giants. And I think they could easily just offer 2 first-round picks and Daniel Jones, and I would throw in Leonard Williams just to even out the cap situation. So I that's the kind of deal I've been looking at if that was possible. But yeah, I don't think that game meant anything, and I'm totally going to forget that it existed in 5 minutes. Moving on, speaking of those New York kind of football playing team Giants, they went to SoFi Stadium, and they don't even deserve to play in a stadium that beautiful, to be honest with you, because they were not playing football. They were not playing a sport that exists in that sort of venue. This was all Chargers. I know the score says 37-21, but trust me, it was not that close. This game was 37-7 in the fourth quarter, and the Chargers just like threw out the cheerleaders and said, "You guys can go play the fourth quarter for us." And the Giants really struggled with that, and too, to be honest with you. And the one takeaway I have of this game is, man, in an alternate universe, Justin Herbert is playing quarterback for the Giants, and I am a much happier person. He made an unbelievable and one of the best throws you're going to see all year. And we talk about Rodgers and how good he is, and nobody's like him. Justin Herbert has that vibe around him too. I know the radio call said there's only one guy in the league who can make that throw. I don't necessarily believe that's true. I think a few guys could have made the throw, but if you haven't seen it, right before halftime, Herbert throws a bomb, an absolute ridiculous, most accurate, like one of the most accurate 60-plus yard throws I've ever seen to Jalen Guyton. It was only a 59-yarder, but when you do the drop back and you roll out to the right, it was more than 60 yards in the air, and he didn't even have to break stride. It was perfectly thrown. Even there was a pause of silence from the broadcasters, just in awe of the ball that he threw. Check that out. Just check out Herbert. He's just sick, and that's really all I have to say. The Giants are awful. Mike Glennon sucks, and fire everybody.
Fire everybody. Yeah, no, it was a bad showing by the Giants. I don't know how long this quarterback situation can keep on surviving with Glennon, Jones, and who's the other guy they had?
Jake Fromm, baby.
Jake Fromm. Well, Jesus, Jake Fromm. Oh my God, it's that bad, eh? Well, the bright news is Saquon Barkley had 16 carries for 64 yards.
The first time he's broken 60 yards since like week 3.
He's back, baby. Yeah, I just go back to this Giants team is so flawed in a lot of different areas. The Chargers we kind of felt like would make a run. I think the AFC West has really good teams in it, even the Raiders to a certain extent, but that was just too much. It was a mismatch. Chargers are going to blow them out. It is what it is. It's the end result. Justin Herbert, he's in that upper echelon of quarterbacks now. Like he's there. He's arrived. He's there with Pat Mahomes. By the way, Pat Mahomes could have made that throw. I'm just saying, Mahomes.
I think Rodgers could have too.
Yeah, and I think Matthew Stafford is another guy who's just got a cannon for an arm.
Yeah.
And
I think the most impressive part though about the throws, he's rolling out and he got hit as he did it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times you need a crow hop to make a throw like that, and he kind of just did a quick little play, like just to set himself. Like that's what I'm most impressed about.
Yeah, no, the aesthetics are definitely interesting for Justin Herbert. He throws probably one of the prettiest deep balls you'll ever see. And that's where it compares with Rodgers and them. But yeah, I agree. The Chargers are going to make the playoffs. I think that's a given. So it's a good one for the Chargers to have a bye week. That's not really a bye week, but they got to play the Giants, so it's a bye week. So go Chargers.
The Chargers, I feel like there's a lot of people just expecting the Chargers to charger with this game, but the Giants just are too shitty for that to happen. So I don't think that was possible in this one. It's important to note, though, they played Thursday against the Chiefs, and Eckler left early in this game, so they might not have Eckler, and they already did not have what's his name? Why did his name just slip my mind? But Keenan Allen for this game. So
COVID.
They might be shorthanded in a huge game against the Chiefs, which if they were to win, they could probably win that division, but they're going to be shorthanded. But we'll see what happens. I'm excited to watch that one on SoFi on Thursday, which we will talk about in our Thursday show, our brand new Thursday show coming up on Thursday.
That's right. Don't miss it.
Moving on. That's a cheap plug. We don't have to talk a ton about this one, but the Broncos took care of business against the Lions 38-10. And like we talked about Demarius Thomas at the top of the show, this was a game clearly played with a heavy heart on Denver's part. They took the field at the beginning of the game with 10 players, and a lot of the NBA teams did something similar. When Kobe Bryant died, they let the clock run out and took the penalty. This time they took a delay of game penalty, but the Lions declined it. So good job on. We talked about how the coach for the Lions there just gets it. Dan Campbell, he just understands it. I think this is another aspect of that. But the Lions clearly outmatched here. The Broncos. Playing inspired football, Melvin Gordon, 24 for 111 and 2 touchdowns. Javonte Williams, 15 for 73 and a touchdown. The Denver runs the ball very well. I don't think they have a really good two-headed attack with that, and they are clearly as good as those two guys are going to take them. And Javonte Williams is going to be a really good running back in this league, and he looks like one of the better ones already. The Lions are a mess, and now they have, I believe it's called a palindrome, if I got that right, as a record. They are 1-11-1 on the season, so it's just the same front as it is backwards. So I feel like that is such a Lions thing. Jared Goff, 24 of 39, 215, a touchdown and a pick. Not much to say here about Detroit. And Denver, 7-6, also very relevant in the AFC playoff picture.
Yeah, I think the coolest moment for me was the Broncos' last touchdown drive went exactly 88 yards.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just a lot of feel-good stuff. The Broncos are 7-6. They look like a fringy playoff team. I hope they make it because I like Vic Fangio, and I hope he's able to keep his job there in Denver because he's a really good coach, I believe. Teddy Bridgewater had a nice game. I take that away from him. And like we said, Dan Campbell just gets it. You said it perfectly, Randy. He understands the gravity of the moment. Whether he's a good NFL head coach or not, that's, we could debate that. That's a lot of discussion there. But this was all set up for them to get the doors blown off of them. They won big, got that weight lifted off of them. That would have been perfect to end the season for them. But unfortunately, they got more football to play and they got their brains beat in. So Broncos covered the spread, which I thought they would anyway. So good for the Broncos. And you know what? Lions, brighter days might be ahead.
Yeah, I think they got a player here in Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had that game-winning touchdown catch against the Vikings, and he had 8 for 73 in this one. I do think he's looking pretty good. So I guess for nothing, I think you got a good player there, and I still like Sewell. I think you have a good offensive line. So if you ended up drafting a quarterback, I don't think it's the worst situation ever, talent-wise.
No.
In Denver, hey, they're going to be playing with a heavy heart the rest of the season. I think that could galvanize the team, and I think that could really, help rally the troops and potentially make a run here. Don't underestimate a team playing, with their emotions like that. I do think that is something that can inspire them to be greater than something else. So I think that's a little, element to the Broncos season here that I don't think we should necessarily ignore. All right. We got 2 more games here, and Henry, it's time. We can do it here. And I didn't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. And I think I'm going to say it. I'm kind of impressed by the 49ers. I didn't expect to be here, but here we are. The Niners go into Cincy and win in overtime, 26-23 over the Bengals. And what I think I'm most impressed by is the fact that the Bengals go into overtime and they kick a field goal to go up 23-20. And I feel like so many times when the team takes a lead in overtime, especially the home team, usually you answer with a field goal and they come down and win, or you just go 3 and out or something and they lose. This time, the Niners got the ball back and just drove right down the field and won the game. I don't know how many times I've seen that before, when the other team takes the lead and you came back and you still scored a touchdown and won. I feel like I haven't seen that many times. And I think the Niners finally unlocked something here that makes me think totally differently of them if this is what it is going forward. They unlocked George Kittle. Who knew George Kittle was good at football? They are finally treating George Kittle like a great player that he is. We love George Kittle on this show. And finally, we are freeing George Kittle. He had 13 catches for 151 yards and a touchdown and a great diving catch to keep the sticks moving in overtime. George Kittle is a great blocker. He is all around fantastic football player. And if the Niners have him playing at this level and they're going to make him a focal point of their team, I personally think they're going to be dangerous. Do I trust that going forward? I don't know, but we will see. Brandon Ayuk also making plays here. Brandon Ayuk had the walk-off touchdown. He was able to stay in bounds, reach the ball over the pylon, and score. I think the Niners radio call of the whole thing is pretty embarrassing and is a big-time joke, but that's besides the point. It doesn't change that Ayuk helps this offense a ton. And you could see it in Jimmy Garoppolo, who was 27 of 41, 296 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Niners looking like a pretty complete team here because on defense, they also look solid as well. They really, limited the Bengals until the second half. And honestly, since he scored 14 points in the fourth quarter to push this game in overtime, up until then, they only had 6 points. So I really like the Niners. I did not expect to like them as much as I did. Just for Henry's sake, I'll add that Nick Bosa himself added 2 sacks in this game. So I expected more out of the Bengals. I really thought they would, they could really win the division if they won this game and kind of run away with it. Now I have my doubts, and the Niners look like they are for sure playoff team in the NFC.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Joe Burrow had a really nice game. Jamar Chase did okay. T. Higgins played well. To me, this is a bigger indictment on the Bengals. You could have really stepped up in that AFC North and claimed stake to that's your division, and they just let the 49ers jump out to an early lead. But really, to me, it's one of the more gutless performances by a defense I've seen by Cincinnati. I don't feel that San Francisco necessarily won this game as they were given this game, because anytime you let a team start off as hot as they let the Niners jump out, I believe at one point it was 17-3, San Francisco up on the Bengals, and they couldn't get anything offensively. The Bengals scored 14 points.
It was 20-6 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And, just to me, that's not the Bengals I wanted to see. And I think it's, like I said, an indictment on the Bengals. You want to be mentioned with the Titans, the Ravens, the Patriots, the Chiefs, even the Chargers, and they're none of that right now. Even the Ravens aren't that good. So the AFC North might be a bucket of trash at this point. For me, the 49ers secret formula has always been George Kittle. The more you get him involved, Deebo Samuel's a great player. I don't want to take anything away from Deebo. I still think Jimmy Garoppolo has so many flaws that you can easily expose. Are the 49ers a good football team? We've seen them get bullied by the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
They lost I believe they lost to the Seahawks too.
Yep.
So
recently.
Yeah, it's just those things like, who are you? In my opinion, George Kittle has to be leading them in targets in order for this team to be successful. The running game, when Mitchell gets healthy and he's able to play again, I think that will help them. But it's not a team I feel good about. It's too Jekyll and Hyde. It's too, they have to be given games rather than take games. The Bears game is a perfect example. I mean, the Bears just totally just shit the bed and gave them that game. So at the end of the day, I don't feel good about it. The 49ers have great players. Like Bosa's great. Trent Williams. I love Trent Williams, one of the best left tackles in the game. And then, you got Deebo, who I love Deebo. I think he's a great player too. And, obviously we talked about Kittle, but it's just all the surrounding pieces. I forget, I can't take away Fred Warner, but you have all these pieces and you're 7-6. It just like, what the fuck? What are you? And we blame it on, we can talk about injuries and all this stuff, but no, I mean, I'm out on the 49ers making noise in the playoffs. They have to show more against the better teams. And to me, like I said, Cincinnati does not feel like one of the better teams in the league.
Fair enough. I think the Bengals are fun, but I don't think they're serious or ready for primetime quite yet. I do think that the Niners, a large part of their roster has at least made a Super Bowl. So they have some sort of playoff experience. So I don't think they would be afraid to go into Lambeau, for example, and play a football game. I don't trust Jimmy G for anything, quite frankly, but I think as long as Kittle is kind of leading the charge there, I do like them a little bit more. And Corey Decker wants us to point out that they did lose to the Cardinals, and one of those games was with Colt McCoy, so I think that should be noted as well. The Bengals, look, I'm a little disappointed. I still think they have a chance to win the division, but at home, they're only 3-4. They lost a couple of games that they probably should have won.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, 25 of 34, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns. The guy's an absolute stud. He is clutch as all hell. I love him. I love his moxie. It also goes back to, though, what we talked about so much in the draft process. They should have taken Sewell. They should have taken Slater. Instead, they take Chase, who has been great. But the offensive line for the Bengals keeps putting Burrow in situations to make mistakes and to potentially get hurt. And we're seeing that down the stretch here. He is constantly running for his life on every play. So Chase is great and they have good weapons, but would this team still be just as good, if not better, if they had a little bit better offensive line and they had Higgins and they have Boyd and Uzoma and maybe you sign a free agent wide receiver who doesn't cost you Chase money and go from there. I don't know. I just spitballing here, but I think the Bengals might still have a little regret they didn't take a lineman.
Yep. Agreed. And then last one, Buffalo and Tampa.
Yeah, I'd save this one for the last because that game, this was one of the more exciting red zone days ever, I think, especially because the 4:00 window was so exciting. It's mainly with these two games. The Niners walked off, and then minutes later, the Bucs also walked off. Both these games obviously ending in overtime. The Bucs win 33-27. And when Tom Brady hit Rashad Breeland, the only catch of the game, went for 58 yards and a touchdown that ended it. It is Brady's 700th career touchdown if you include the postseason. I don't even have like $700, so that's pretty amazing. Brady continues to just do things that aren't even fathomable, to be honest. He went 31 of 46, 336 yards and 2 touchdowns. But honestly, I don't even know if Brady was the best quarterback on the field for the second half of that game. At least Josh Allen really played great, I thought, at the end of this game. Allen was 36 of 54, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And he also had 12 carries for 109 yards and a touchdown. And I think that's what elevates the Bills here, because they're not a great rushing team. They don't have great running backs. They don't even have a great offensive line. Their quarterback's extremely mobile. This is what I wanted them to do against the Patriots on that Monday Night Football game, was to run Josh Allen, because he is a great athlete who's capable of doing that. And he really willed them to overtime in this game, because they were losing, 27-10 in the fourth quarter of this game. And then Buffalo came storming back.
Coming out of halftime, they were down 24-3.
24-3. So this game was all but over. I mean, I was writing them up. I was trolling my Bills friends. And then they came back, and I'm like, holy hell, Josh Allen really did his thing here in the second half. And if I'm a Bills fan, I'm very frustrated with the officiating, because I thought Diggs was interfered with in the end zone at the end of this game.
Yep.
I also thought, there was a call when they went 3-and-out in overtime that could have been made that wasn't. And then Evans gets the call in overtime too, which I think was a little touchy. So I think there's a warrant there too, if you're a Bills fan, to be a little upset about the officiating. That doesn't change the fact I still think you could have won this game, despite all of those things. I don't like to blame the officiating completely. Like, you're down 24-3. Don't be down 24-3. Maybe you win. Instead of kicking a field goal to tie, you still could have gone for it. And in overtime, don't go 3-and-out. You could have made other plays besides that one that could have changed the outcome of this game. The Bucs 10-3 now look pretty good. The Bills 7-6. Ultimately still feel like a playoff team, but I don't feel as good about them. I feel better about Josh Allen, but not as good about the Bills as a whole.
Yeah, Josh Allen got hurt this game. That's to be noted. It looks like he may play.
Turf toe, right?
Yeah. So it's something with his foot or ankle. Big thing here to take away at the end of the day, Randy, as we talked about it, the Buccaneers are 10-3 now. And it sets up nicely for them. They could easily win out, much like the Packers. So you could be looking at, the 1 and 2 seed here. And going to Tampa is not always the easiest thing in January, because you just get swamp butt, and it's just kind of a miserable experience. But, I take away Leonard Fournette here. Like, Leonard Fournette is looking really, really good, looking like the number 4 overall pick that the Jaguars tapped him to be. Jesus Christ. Running backs being drafted in top 5, never a good business.
For the team that drafted them, especially.
Yes, for the team that drafted them, especially. 19 carries, 113 yards, and a touchdown. Brashard Perriman with the game-winning touchdown in overtime. Ex-Bear, a lot of things, and
ex-Jet.
Yeah, ex-Jet, and he saves the game. Amazing what a quarterback that knows how to use guys and an offensive coach that knows how to use guys, what they can do with them. Really amazing stuff there. The Bucs defense really kind of let down in the fourth quarter. Like you see these furious comebacks. Let's face it, 17 points in the fourth quarter for the Bills. And then we saw it again with the Bengals scoring all those points in the fourth quarter as well. And then the Giants scoring fourth quarter points. And like at a certain point, it really infuriates me that a team gives up that many points in the fourth quarter, because to me, it's just like, why don't you play the way you played when you shut them down? Like you go to this soft ass defense, you start playing zone coverage, you play prevent. It's just aggravating. Play what got you there. Don't take your foot off the pedal, because then that sets up poorly for next week. I think momentum carries over and you want to get it. So a little disappointed in the Bucs here. I do think they're better than Buffalo. I do like them as a 2 seed in the NFC. It sets up well. Congratulations, Tom Brady. Go, Tom Brady. Whatever.
Really overcame a ton of adversity, Mr. Brady. It's about time things started looking up for him. So many times just to get knocked down. He keeps getting back up. It's really, really inspiring.
Yep, a tip of the cap. So good job.
The Bills really got to start getting their act together here, or they're going to miss the playoffs. But I do think they're good enough to make the postseason. But I don't think they're going to win the division. I think that's out of reach at this point.
Yep. Well, Randy, hell of a show.
All right, well, yeah, before this is the first edition of this, but before we go, we don't ever really talk about this. We never have the time, and honestly, we went longer than we probably both expected to in this game. But hey, fantasy playoff season is here. If you're lucky enough to make the playoffs, you're looking for waivers. I got a couple names for you. I don't know if you have a couple. I got 2 receivers, 2 I already gave shout outs to in this episode: Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions and Rashad Bateman of the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I checked out my fantasy team. They've sucked. I've tried everything. Rubber band, sticks, gum, everything. It's just bad. I don't have anything for the people fantasy wise, but listen to Randy.
Yeah, I think those are 2 good names. If you're in the postseason, you need a receiver. I like both of those options. But Matt, we got some shows under this Life Group umbrella. Why don't we tell the folks about them, and then when we're going to be back on Thursday?
Yep. So we have. I just found out last week that the Work Shoot Wrestling podcast may be on hiatus because of Jason Brooks. Congratulations to him and his family, the new additions. So congratulations to you. So expect to hear, good things for them. Dong City, I don't know when they're going next with Vince Mercandetti and Henry Maldonado Jr., but when they come on, great show to listen to. The Step Back podcast in Basketball Life is every other Monday. So go check those boys out. They do a great job. Love listening to them. They should be back next Monday as they recorded last Monday. So love hearing them and their love affair with the Chicago Bulls. Always appreciated. And then, Felipe Malicio goes every Sunday morning, I believe. So check those guys out for, I don't even know, Total Bases podcast, Persuado podcast. I don't know. But good baseball stuff. Baseball's kind of than brothers. And then check us out. Tuesdays at noon Eastern, Thursdays at noon or at 2 Eastern. So Tuesday, noon, Thursday, 2, all Eastern Standard Time. And we'll make sure we'll post that in the group.
Yeah, going back to our 2-show schedule, but I think people are going to like the daytime slate. I think we had a good turnout so far today. But yeah, we'll see you guys back here on Thursday to preview all of the Week 15 action. We get Saturday football this week. It's the holidays. Man, we're getting football galore. No more bye weeks. I love this time of year. It's so exciting. But I want to thank all of you guys for joining us today, whether you're on Facebook Live, watching us on YouTube, or listening to us on the audio-only platforms. We greatly appreciate you taking some time and making us a little part of your day, wherever you may be. So thank you. On behalf of Matt Bushell, I'm Randy Hammond saying see you guys on Thursday.